and welcome to Lutherans Alive. This is the program that seeks to tell the stories of Lutheran Christians and our ministries here in Southwestern Pennsylvania, believing that God is doing wonderful things through us. I'm Pastor Tony Schneck, pleased to be your host on the program today, and our guest today, Pastor Rich Leseganich from Hope Evangelical Lutheran Church in Cranberry Township, north of Pittsburgh. Rich, thanks for being on the program today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
All right. How long have you served as pastor there at, associate pastor there at Hope Cranberry?
It will be going on 5 years actually, so just over 4 years.
Very good.
Yeah.
And it's my understanding that recently you had an opportunity to take some folks from that congregation and perhaps some other folks as well on a trip to the Holy Land. How many of you were there?
There were 6 of us. There were 5 from Hope, and there was one other additional person from another congregation within the Synod. So there was a total of 6. We opened it up to the entire congregation and to the community, and slowly got those registrations in, and ended up with 6 at the end of the registration process.
Now, it's my understanding that a lot of tours that go to the Holy Land. I've never had the opportunity to go there myself, but a lot of tours happen to be Christian-based travel agencies or tour companies that take groups over there. Your group intentionally went another route. Could you say a few words about that?
Absolutely. Before going, we met multiple times as a group, small group, and really discerned what type of a trip that we wanted. And so we did consult with a variety of Christian-based organizations and did some conversations, did some emailing with them, decided prayerfully as a group that we wanted to go and take a historical approach that might be free from any outside bias. And we use that word bias, knowing that there's always a bias when we do a trip like that. And so because we were a faith community, because we were all Lutheran, we wanted to be able to bring our own faith perspective and our own theological twist on the trip. And so we went with Colette Vacations, which is based out of Texas, working with a local travel agency in Cranberry Township. And we went through that trip with a trip to Israel and also a trip to Jordan as well as an extension on that trip. And we found it very helpful to be able to gather as a group within a larger group at times to do some Bible study, to have some time in sharing the Eucharist in places like Jerusalem, and to do a baptismal remembrance at the Jordan River as a group of Christians, and still a part of that group, but also we're able to spend some time with our own theological heritage and rich Lutheran tradition that we felt might be missing if we did that with another outside agency.
And so, again, what an opportunity to witness that even though you were with a secular company, that you still had the faith in your own heart, that you carried that with you to the Holy Land, and were able to share that. Again, even have the Eucharist together, worship together, pray together in that setting. How was that in terms of the interaction with others in your tour group? Because there were more than 6 of you in the
There
group.
was actually 5 tour buses on the trip, so there was well over 100 folks. But we were broken down into buses, and so there was about 60 on our bus. Ironically, the majority of people that were with us were practicing Christians in their own faith traditions, and so we didn't have the separation, so to speak, as we would on a typical secular tour. And our tour manager was a Southern Baptist, and so definitely brought an evangelical feel to it. And so there was some rich dialogue there, which seemed very natural. It wasn't something that was set up on a pre-planned agenda, but those conversations and prayers and hymn singing happened on the bus from a natural standpoint, and it wasn't programmed in, which made it even more special. I think that we were open to just being a community in that place for 14 days. And truly a sense of community did develop among those group, and I would even say Christian community without it having to be organized as such.
Certainly a testament to being in the world but not of it.
Absolutely.
And of course, going to the Holy Land, you can't help but be caught up and be very knowledgeable of the historic and religious significance of that whole area, not only for us Christians, but for Jewish people and for Muslims as well. Those three major Western religions having roots and having a lot of importance there in that area. Can you say some things about your trip? Where did you go? What did you do? How was it?
We went obviously to Israel, but we followed the biblical story, and so a lot of it was going to the birthplace first, doing the baptism, and that whole ended up at the Via Dolorosa, the Way of the Cross, which was very meaningful. We also went during Lent, so while practically that wasn't the best time for a pastor to be able to get away from a congregational schedule, it was very meaningful that we were able to be there during that time and reading the stories of the Passion and the Crucifixion, and being able to know that it was, at the time that we're celebrating this, was taking place in those moments. It was very, very special. But we did the gamut of the traditional sites. We did the Holy City of Jerusalem, 4 days there, being able to spend some time doing other fun things as well, spending time in the Dead Sea and doing all of those other things that one would think of in the Holy Land.
Mm-hmm. And you said, as you sort of followed the story, you followed things in chronological order, or was it easier to go geographically to different places?
We did geographic, absolutely, but we were able to recount that in our own conversations and piece those things together and kind of reconstruct the story, although we weren't following them, from a chronological standpoint, knowing where we were as a group and being able to have those conversations and piecing that together. We also created a blog while we were there, which is still available online, where we shared that online with the congregation back home, so they were able to share that story and make that hopefully a part of their own Lenten experience and Lenten journey as well.
Mm-hmm. Lent has been compared to a journey. This season has been
Absolutely
compared to a journey that does take us to the cross, precisely. So that fit very well. Tell us, when you first got there, where was the first place you went? What were your initial impressions?
First arriving was the early morning in Tel Aviv, which of course is a very, very modern city. And so all of the stereotypes of the Holy Land and the images that we may have, we did not experience that right away. It was also a very rainy day, early morning. So we kind of got to see the city come alive as folks were going to work, as the people in the area were getting ready for their day. We were in the community as well. We were checking into our hotel, and so we were part of the new day with them. And that was real exciting, too, to see the hustle and bustle of the modern streets and being able to take some time before the tour actually began to go out in the streets on our own and to experience that. There was a little bit of apprehension among the group, not knowing, being in the Middle East, not knowing what is waiting for us. And so some of the group chose to stay back and to wait for that to be a little bit more organized. But then there were some of us who were a little bit more adventurous and went around in the streets and did some shopping in the stores and interacted with the locals, which was very, very exciting.
A little taste of the modern Middle East before you got to delve into the ancient story.
Absolutely.
More about the ancient story. We'll go down that road in just a little while after we take a short break here on Lutherans Alive.
Please.
Welcome back to Lutherans Alive. We're talking with Pastor Rich Leseganich from Hope Lutheran Church, Cranberry, talking about a trip to the Holy Land. And Rich, you were telling us before the break that you had arrived in Tel Aviv and you had these initial impressions of the Middle East. Your first trip to the Holy Land?
First trip to the Holy Land and also to the Middle East in general.
Okay. And then from that modern center of the Middle East there in Tel Aviv, where did you head to?
We went just a short drive away to Jaffa and also to Caesarea. So we got to experience some of the remains there of the ancient city and the Roman aqueduct and the harbors that were built by Herod the Great, and doing all of those amphitheaters. And some in our group actually performed. There was an opportunity to test out the acoustics, and so people got on the stage and used their skills and shared that with others, and we were able to witness that right there and being able to reflect in those moments of all the other people throughout history, believers and non-believers perhaps, who were there and performed on those stages. To be on those remains was quite powerful.
There was, even back then, it would have been a very diverse area, as you say, with the Romans and others traveling. It was quite the crossroads, even back during biblical times. So from that area, then, and those experiences, where did you go next?
We went into Jerusalem, where we were there for 4 days in Jerusalem. And so we got to experience the old city in its fullness, as well as modern Jerusalem as well. And we were over and over again struck by the contrast between the old city and the modern Jerusalem. Of course, staying outside the walls of the city and very much aware of being in the Middle East at that moment. There were quite a few spontaneous protests that happened, including right when we arrived in Jerusalem, just an hour or so after checking into our hotel. We had noticed some commotion out on the street, and looking out the hotel window, there was a small protest that was taking place. Never got to know exactly what that was about, but we were warned, obviously, as foreign tourists, to avoid all of those protests in the small group spontaneous gatherings that occurs. Another story, while in Jerusalem, in the evening, some of us decided to walk to a local coffee shop. The coffee shop was called Cup of Joe, and so that was an area for us to experience free Wi-Fi and update our blog that we had for the congregation. And while there, we were sitting at a window, and there was a lot of commotion outside, a lot of sirens, a lot of running down the streets, and of course, we as tourists were a little apprehensive. We were only there for a few hours when this was happening. And what struck us is that none of the locals inside the restaurants were reacting at all. They remained very, very calm. And so one person in our group questioned our waitress, what is all the commotion and why are we not reacting? And their answer to us was very telling. She said to us, you must be from the States. And we said, yes. And she said, well, there, you worry about drunk drivers. Here we worry about suicide bombers. It's part of our daily life. We just take in the moments and we live with it, which was very telling, to be able to be in that type of environment where others would react. And of course, we were in fear. It was real reflective, a cultural moment for us that we are in a different world, but there's a way to learn and there's a way to deal with all of the things that we go through in life, which even set the stage from a theological standpoint as we traveled the way of the cross and all that Christ had went through as well was very telling for us.
Sure. A very, very stark contrast.
Absolutely.
From where we find ourselves here to an area where there is a lot of tension and violence, and of course there are parts of this country where we have a lot of violence as well, but that's your story is an interesting one, and those people there, they just live with it. They
Absolutely.
just it's part of their day every day. Was there a great concern for safety while you were there throughout the trip? I mean, what other things were you told about your safety, or how safe you would be from things like that?
There was definite concern among group members about safety. We had signed a waiver, of course, with our tour company, sort of releasing them from liability and acknowledging that they had done their due diligence and letting us know. The morning that we had left, there was a bombing that took place in the bus station in Jerusalem. And so we were there about ready to board the plane at the Pittsburgh airport and got word of that. In the conversation among our group at that time was, even do we want to continue with this? Do we realize where we are going? Are we fully aware? And of course we were, but we had the natural human tendency to say, is this a wise decision for us? After getting there and spending the time in the Holy Land, in Israel and in Jordan, and reflecting back, we realized that it was absolutely a good thing to do. And we also became aware of how much the media sensationalizes that. The average person in the Middle East is not a violent person, but they are humans. They are kind, loving people. And so we were almost ashamed of ourselves for having that stereotype, and being able to interact with those folks really brought a brand new perspective onto what the media can do and what our stereotypes can do as a result of what we see.
Right. As is the case whenever there's war or conflict between nations and peoples, it always seems to be a minority.
Absolutely.
That seem to be engaged in the violent behavior, and we are good to remember that there's that vast number of people, innocent people and children who are just going about their lives.
Absolutely.
Just like you and I are, and
Absolutely.
our brothers and sisters in the human family, and that's who we are. That's who we are. So from there, where did you go? What did you do?
From there, we ended up in the Dead Sea, where we had a few lighter moments, literally floating in the Dead Sea. We had a lot of laughter. That's where the camaraderie really developed among the group. We were doing some very intense spiritual and historical moments for quite a while in the trip, and so having the time to relax a little bit and share in some fellowship was a welcome break. In that, so we were able to experience that, do some floating. Some of us had a massage at the Dead Sea, with the healing salts and things of that nature. So we spent some time there, and then actually went into Jordan. That's where we crossed into the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan for 4 days before returning back to Israel.
Sounds great. A lot of things to share about such a wonderful trip. We'll share some more things after we take another break here on Lutherans Alive.
Great.
Welcome back to Lutherans Alive. We're very glad you're with us. We're also very glad to have Pastor Rich Leseganich talking about his trip to the Holy Land and the group that went. And among those places that you were able to visit was the city of Jerusalem. You had mentioned some of the things there. Could you say a little bit more about those days that you spent in the city and what you saw there?
Absolutely. One of the favorites of our group was the opportunity to visit the Western Wall, or the Wailing Wall, focusing more on what holds us in common with our Jewish brothers and sisters. We, before going into the area of the Western Wall, needed to go through some security checkpoints. And some in the group had taken prayer books that were available for that purpose, and those were confiscated. And we were sternly warned, but politely warned that bringing those kind of things into the area could create significant problems. So we were respectful of that, and it was a reminder to us, again, those continual reminders that the things that we take for granted being able to do back in the States, we're not able to do necessarily in those areas. Having the opportunity to see Jews in prayer and to join with them, being able to go and touch the Wailing Wall, to offer our own prayers, which we have brought back from the congregation, and being able to place them in the wall, in the crevices of the wall, was a very, very spiritual, very meaningful experience. There was also in the courtyard, there was a group of young Jewish men that were there celebrating their faith in song and dance, and being able to be a part of that from the outside, but also being able to observe that was also very, very, very powerful experience of being there.
Yeah, I understand that that's a very popular stop.
Yes, absolutely.
For many from across religious lines, so to speak. Yes. Other things about the city itself, Jerusalem, other sites that you had a chance to see.
Definitely, the Mount Olives, driving up and down the Mount Olives, being able to see the holy city at night and during the day, the view is spectacular. I mean, that's the view that we see so much when we think of the Holy Land, and being able to take that in with the Dome of the Rock there, and all the other white, the stone that is there in the city, was also very, very, very beautiful, very, very powerful.
And how did that experience impact you and your group being there? Other than just the beauty of being there, obviously the significance of that area and what happened there, and just how old that place is.
How old it is, and also how Scripture now comes alive. So many times on a Sunday morning when we're reading Scripture, and we will be able to make eye contact with someone from the group, and we hear these things in Scripture, but now being able to have that visual of what that place looks like, particularly when we're looking at something like the Garden of Gethsemane, some of the more natural elements of that, and being able to be in the garden, the olive trees that were so ancient and thousands of years old. All of those comes to life in a brand new way. But when we asked members of the group what in Jerusalem was the most significant for you, out of the 6 of us, it was the Garden of Gethsemane. Just the rich history there, and also the Wailing Wall. Those were the 2 that really stood out within the city of Jerusalem for us.
It's amazing to imagine trees that are that old that were actually there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When Jesus himself was there.
Yep.
And those trees would have been growing and alive, and that there's something that's alive for that long.
Absolutely.
To see those events, so to speak. So that's neat. Other sites in Jerusalem, or other reflections about that great and important city.
The Garden Tomb was another one that we had the opportunity to visit. Of course, it was a replica of what they think the Garden Tomb looks like. But being able to be there as well was also a very meaningful experience. Our tour guide was a practicing Christian, and so there we were given sort of an evangelical witness to our faith, and being able to be there from a Christian perspective.
That's pretty tremendous. Again, yes, sometimes difficult, I understand, to pinpoint exact locations of where something may have happened, but even just to be in the ballpark, so to speak.
Absolutely. And to be reminded continuously, and to remind ourselves that we don't worship the place, we worship the one who walked among that place. Was an important insight that we reminded ourselves of frequently while we were there.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. Very true. You covered a lot of miles.
We did, absolutely. A lot of miles and a lot of years.
You did, and a lot to talk about. A lot of things to share about a trip like this.
Yes.
So much so that we hope that you will come back again and share some more. Do you think you'd go back to the Holy Land again sometime?
I would, absolutely. We would go back. All of us would go back. Talking about that as a group, we We did experience some security measures.
Sure.
Some of us were detained and questioned at length, but even through that process, realizing that that is for our safety and that is for the safety of the folks who live there. So we would go back in a heartbeat. We're hoping to go back again at some point, even bringing more members of the congregation to go and experience the wonders and the beauty of that place.
Good. Wonderful. And maybe you could come back again and say some more things about even the Via Doloroso.
Yes, absolutely.
And to share a bit about that and some of the other spots that you had the opportunity to see.
Absolutely. We'd be glad to do that.
Pastor Rich, thank you so very much for being here today. Thanks for what you shared. We would be very pleased to have you again, so we're going to ask everybody to stay tuned for part 2 of another edition of Lutherans Alive, where we hear more about your trip to the Holy Land and your group.
Very good.
Thanks. And thank you for being with us on Lutherans Alive today. We know that from wherever you're watching, whether you're in Cranberry Township or somewhere else in this great land, there is a Lutheran congregation that would be very pleased to welcome you. We hope that you'll come and worship with us, and we hope that you'll come and see us next time on Lutherans Alive.